Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I'm Daniel Chamberlain, co-host, here with Joe Daniel, as always.
What's up, Coach?
Well, Joe, I picked two NFL teams to win games last week, and they both let me down. But the San Fran-Detroit game, I was a little, I kind of like both. Brock Purdy being the guy for San Fran is really cool because he's in his second year, and he did ridiculously good last year. But, that Dan Campbell selling the Detroit players on just the grit. That's just a good story. So either side, that was my Super Bowl. I really truly don't care what happens from here on out. If Brock wins it, great. If Pat Mahomes puts another ring on his finger, great. So that's what's going on, is apathy in football.
Yeah, Super Bowl. Let's go.
I hope the commercials are better this year. I'll watch for some commercials. They were a letdown last year, so
I usually end up not paying that much attention to the game, to be honest. Right. We've for the last few years, we've always usually had some sort of a Super Bowl party, but for the last few years, we've just been kind of the same group of people moving from house to house each year, and it doesn't matter to me one way or the other what happens in the game.
right.
I'll pick some. I'll find some reason. I'm not like the Lakers Yankees type fan. I don't, I have teams. I have all my teams are from Atlanta, and that's just what I have to deal with. But I always think it's funny when everybody's, I just want somebody different. And the last few years I've kind of flipped to being like, I want to see like greatness. Like I after the Atlanta meltdown Super Bowl, I flipped to being like Tom Brady supporter. And like as much as that killed me, it was like, all right, this dude's greatest of all time. And from that point on, I wanted to see Tom Brady every year.
Yes.
It was just like this is something that, and I feel that way with Mahomes and that whole like Mahomes is kind of doing the same thing where it's not as you take out I mean a pretty big piece, right? He doesn't have that down the field threat that that just ran by everybody,
Right.
and still to be where he's at, and Kansas City has a great defense, which I think is always overlooked. I thought that was Tampa with Tom Brady was like wildly overlooked how good their defense was. It was kind of ridiculous. Baltimore had a great defense. I don't feel the exact same way with the 40. The 49ers are a really, really good team, but like I said, Brock Purdy is second year. McCaffrey's great. Like there's that, but probably am going to lean towards the Chiefs just because of that. Just because of Mahomes is on this incredible, first 6 years of his career. He's played in the NFC. He's played in the AFC Championship game.
6 straight or something, yeah.
And it's like, that's when you start talking about things that Tom Brady didn't, that Joe Montana didn't do, that, these, like, he's doing things that are just unheard of.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that level of just absolute, like that dynasty, that greatness, that legendary type of thing. I like, LeBron, same type of thing. Like he's just so freaking good. Like I just those kinds of people that have done things that are just unreal.
Yeah.
I kind of get, luckily in hockey it's Ovechkin, so it's easy for me. That's the guy. I don't like Sidney Crosby, but so hockey's the one that's easy because it's actually our guy.
There you go.
The rest of them, like the Braves are easy right now. But
yeah, pretty easy to pick them.
Yeah, I mean the Braves are an
off,
automatic, and for me the Braves are the one that even. I mean, I remember watching the Braves. That's the first sports that I remember. I mean, I know that I was a Falcons fan, I guess, but the Braves, and the Braves weren't good, but I remember watching Bob
Well,
Horner
there's
before.
200 games on. You're gonna see some of them,
Yeah, and they're
and you're gonna remember them.
yeah, like I remember those things. I remember the Braves is the team that I remember. I don't remember as much about the Hawks. I mean, I remember Dominic Wilkins and Spud Webb as a little kid. Um, I remember the Falcons, but I don't remember much before. I mean, the Falcons were bad. I remember like Chris Miller days, which was probably the mid late '80s. Um, Maybe even I don't remember Steve Barkowski, who's the quarterback. I think in the early '80s. Like I don't have any recollection of that, but I remember the Braves. I remember Dale Murphy and Bob Horner and like the not early, mid '80s Braves. So yeah, the Braves is an easy one for me, but hopefully
Well,
we'll get more than one more than one World Series, because that was what happened the last time we went through this.
I just checked the date, and the Super Bowl as of release date of this episode was 3 days ago or 4. So
Good, everybody knows.
we're late. So everybody knows who won, and now we're just foreseeing into the future.
It's great.
They'll know today if we're sad or happy.
Yep, I won't be sad or happy. It won't.
Nah.
But
So
passing, throwing footballs.
we came tonight, talk a little quick game. We're in one of those seasons that has been really dominated by the culture stuff and the program development and less X's and O's. And so, I think it's a great time to throw back some X's and O's and throw back. So we're going to talk a little quick game tonight. Very, very simplistic, nothing too crazy, which I think quick games should be, right? And so, tell you what, why don't you just pay the bills and we'll just go talk about it.
Yeah, so right now we're kind of transitioning, so it's kind of like the Super Bowl. This will be up. And we're going to have, if you go to joedanielfootball.com, you're going to see a new download available, free download, which is called 40 Coach Simple Rules for Football Coaches Who Want to Win More Games. And basically what I've done is I just sat down and wrote like the important stuff. And, there's more than 40, obviously, but like, I think that if you take these 40 things and you start applying them, you're going to see more wins. Some of them are things that are, the Coach Simple philosophy and the concepts behind that. There's also things that are drill philosophy and concepts behind, putting together your drills, how you should package your drills together, how you should run your drills. There's run fits philosophy. There's ASCA and levers. There is non-negotiables, which I think is really, really important, the non-negotiables for each position. So there's more than 40. There will be more than 40 someday. But right now, these 40 are a pretty good start on the things that I think. And they do kind of lean in the defensive side because that's easier to lay out rules for. It's not easier to coach or easier to do, but it's easier to lay out rules for. So check it out. Just go to joedanielfootball.com. You'll see it right there on the homepage, 40 Coach Simple Rules for football coaches who want to win more games.
Awesome. Also, I have to talk about adaptable physical therapy. That's Sam, my wife, Dr. Chamberlain to you. Dr. Chamberlain and I's little baby, man. We're almost to a year, and things are really looking up. And she's finding out how to get her fingers into everything in the community when it comes to helping local players. And we're in a retirement community, so a lot of the elderly are definitely benefiting from seeing Dr. Chamberlain. So if you're in the area, this kind of 4-state area, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, I'd highly recommend you come over. No matter your age, she's even saw a 1-year-old baby in recent history and dealing with helping that child who can't even communicate the issues. So obviously she's got some skill there. I can't imagine coaching defense to a 1-year-old, so I don't know how she does that, but
I don't know how that works.
One-on-one care with a licensed provider is kind of our big staple. Come in, you're going to see the same person every single time. They'll know what they did last time. We have charts because that's what the medical field is, but they're going to know what ails you and how they've been helping you. And she's really good at doing that. Big proponent of like your remedies should outweigh your everyday life. If you're going to physical therapy and you're walking through the motions and nothing hurts and it's the same as if you just went to the grocery store and carried some bags, you're probably not going to physical therapy. You're being farmed for some cash. So She's all about getting you under a squat bar. I think I've said many times, squat rack was the very first piece of equipment we bought because she was like, I can work everyone with this. So reach out to her at adaptablept@gmail.com. Set up an appointment today. Also, Athletic Speed and Movement. That's where Joe and I have been working with Del Basquette to get his 45 plus years of experience on the internet for you. You know, Dell's been a guy that has worked in person. You got to go to a camp. You got to invite him in, bring him into your school to get his knowledge. And it is knowledge that's worth doing that. But now we've made it easier for you as a coach. You go over to athleticspeedmovement.com, give us your email. You're going to check out a video about, the three principles of speed, the three scientific principles. And Dell's going to walk you through that. And signing up for the program is super easy. Okay. And it's worth it. I sent out an email just recently. One of my freshman kids was talking about a senior wide receiver who's on the track team. And he's like, oh, I beat him in every race. He's not even fast. And I'm like, please just go back and watch his film, because the kid's already forgot. That senior is a monster on the football field. I don't even know, maybe Darian Sproles, like he just had one of those. He was going to put a foot in the ground and go a direction, and you were never going to get there. Human joystick's what I called him, and that is the epitome of athletic speed and movement, right? It's, I'm going to beat you from point A to point B, and then I'm going to turn and leave you in the dust. And that's what we want all of your kids to be able to do. Your linemen should be able to do that. Your wide receivers, your running backs, every position on the field should be able to put a foot in the ground, change directions, and Del Basquette's learnings will get you there. Jump over to athleticspeedmovement.com. You can sign up today. 5 core movements, 12-week program. Guys, there's still time to get it in. Almost, yeah, I think you could even get it in once before summer camp or summer pride starts and get a second rotation through when you get those guys back. So don't be afraid to sign up in the offseason. athleticspeedmovement.com. Bills paid. Let's talk some quick game, man. Elephant in the room, what is the quick game? What is quick game passing?
Well, I mean, the traditional concept of quick game is 3-step drop. 3-step drop is your quick game. Under center 3-step drop, which, not, a lot of people are not under not under center anymore. So if you're in gun or pistol, it's 1 step. The snap, the timing of the snap accounts for 2 steps, and then you take your 1 step and you throw. You get the ball out quick, and that's hence the name quick game. I mean, that's about as straightforward as you can get with it.
And so, when I think what is quick game, a lot of times I have to think routes. Like, what routes are attached to quick game? Is that you surprised me. I'm pretty sure the first time I ever heard you talk about a go ball being quick game. Like 1, 2, 3, let it rip, right? Because you either got him beat or you don't. So what routes fall into quick game mentality or that concept?
Your traditional routes they're 5-step routes. They're so a ball that is quick game. If the quarterback throws it on his 3rd step, the receiver should be breaking on his 5th step. And that's, the ball should be arriving. So when we're talking quick game, we can get into timing and all that sort of stuff. We're trying to have the decision made ball. Quarterback is, triggering whatever it is, 0.8. The ball is out in 1.3. That's ideal in quick game. The ball is out in 1.3 seconds. So the routes that are going to hit on that, the most common quick game route is hitch. So a hitch is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and turn. And so that is a quick game route. And really we're kind of like, it's not like a stem like curl. I think a lot of people do hitch really weird. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5th step is really the open step. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th step is an open step with the outside foot dropping to the outside, opening to the outside. So we actually don't open hitch to the inside. We open hitch to the outside. But it's really caught right on that stem on the 5th step. So it's where he would be on 5 steps, which is a little beyond 5 yards. And then, so that's the traditional basic route. We complement that with, we use a hitch seam, where we can read off of the safety and throw the seam ball. But really, if we call hitch, we want to throw the hitch. I don't call hitch going, well, it's 1 high safety. So that's where maybe you get into things with, four verts and people doing it a little bit different. But what we want to do is we want to throw the hitch. The second route that is a pretty basic hitch or pretty basic 3-step is slant. And the slant can be done different ways. You can do a 1-step slant, 3-step slant. You can do a 5-step slant where it's caught directly on the break. But the basic slant is 1, 2, 3, break at essentially aiming at the inside linebacker. 4, 5, and the ball should be caught. So if you align with a wider split, so if a normal split is 12 yards, if you align at 14 yards, the ball should be thrown a little bit out in front on a slant. It should be the exact same throw, and that's what that's really, really important. Is these are all essentially the same throw. 1, 2, 3, break 4, 5 to toward the linebacker, and he's catching it at about 5 yards, 6 yards deep on the on the same that same 12-yard 5-step stem is where he's going to catch the ball, or where the ball is going to be, and he's going to be catching out in front. Whereas a hitch throw should hit him in the chin strap or the outside shoulder. You really want to hit the outside shoulder on a hitch throw because you normally have inside leverage. If you're throwing the hitch, normally the only time that you get outside leverage is cover 2, in which case you wouldn't want to be throwing the hitch because you have the corner sitting in the flat. You want to throw it against cover 3. You want to throw it against quarters. You want to throw it against off man. You don't want to throw the hitch against press. We get it all. It's probably jumping some things, but so it's the hitch, the slant, and the fade. And the fade is 1, 2, 3. We use different ways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is setting him up. 1, 2, 3 can be more of an inside stem, and then 4, 5 is breaking to the outside. You want to try to get his shoulders turned, depending on how he's playing it. But you want to throw that ball on the third step by the quarterback, and the fade ball. You said he's either beat or he's not. He's by alignment. And we'll talk about pre-snap decisions. By alignment, we're liking what we get. So, press, let's say. What we're saying on that ball is I'm going to throw it 17 to 22 yards down the field in that 5-yard highway outside of my receiver, where only the sideline or my receiver or the sideline can make the play. That's a good hitch. That's a good fade throw. So I'm not throwing it because he's either beat or he's not. I'm throwing it in a spot where it doesn't matter. Either we're going to make the play. Fade's a low percentage ball. It just is. But we're going to put it in a spot where either we're going to make the play or the sideline's going to make the play. It's going to be out of bounds. It's going to be, not going to make, we're not throwing it up. It's not a 50-50 ball. It shouldn't be if we do it right. So, and then the fourth one that is on that I never throw is a speed out. Same concept on the speed out, 1, 2, 3, turn out 4, 5. So I can align at a 10-yard split, break the out. And actually the out's usually 5 yards. So it's usually like 5 yards and turn out. I don't like throwing that route. I think it's a lower percentage without as much a much reward for it. And it's a harder throw. So I don't throw it, but a speed out would generally be in the 3-step. We just don't use it. It's not part of our offense.
So you brought up a really good point in talking about we know pre-snap alignment, whether we like the route or not. So I guess my first question is the choice route. How many people are using that and how many maybe shouldn't be? Or because I can think, if I can look out there and see I've got press, a lot of times I know a lot of guys are going to go, hey, if they're pressed, that's fade ball. If not, we're going to run the hitch, right? If I can get them 7 yards and bailing, see a hitch, throw hitch all day long. So has the choice route crept its way into that methodology of using the quick game?
So originally we were doing something like that, or years ago we were doing that. And what we would do is we would just call quick. We didn't have any quick game passing. We call quick. And the number one receiver would look at the leverage and the quarterback would look at the leverage. And if I had somebody playing off man, 6+ yards, we were going to throw the hitch. And so we had a signal where the receiver would look and the receiver would put his hands on his hips, his inside hand on his hip, and that would indicate hitch. He would put his hand up closer to his face, and that would indicate um, fade. And then he would put his hand on his side, and that would be slant. And so that way we could indicate if he had somebody who was up tighter, 5 yards or less, then we were going to throw the fade. If we had somebody who happened to be outside leverage, which is pretty rare, and we ended up never throwing the slant, if we had somebody who was outside leverage, we would throw the slant. And it was all signaled between the quarterback and the receiver. The problem with that is if you are rotating a lot of receivers, if you're rotating multiple receivers, and you have a run-heavy offense, and our offense is I always talk about, our offense, pistol power offense system is whatever you want it to be. It's take what they give you.
Right.
But pretty typically, it ends up being the old school definition of balance, which was 50-50. We are generally in that 50-50 range, even though the plan is we'll take whatever you give us. Balance is not 50-50. Balance is the threat of being able to run or pass at any given time. I can throw the ball 10% of the time and I'm still balanced if the reason that I throw the ball 10% of the time is because I'm so good at running the ball that you pack the box. And, I only throw it when you just totally, I still have that threat.
Right.
So we end up being 50-50. We end up playing a good number of receivers. We end up spending a lot of time on the run game. We have a good number of passing, five-step passing, play action passing obviously is a big part if you run the ball pretty well, screen game. And as a result, the communication wasn't always right. The receiver would see one thing, the quarterback would see another. We would want to throw the hitch regardless and didn't have a way to, signal that. And we would do things like we would call it from the sideline. So we would call quick and the receivers and the quarterback would look at us and we would make that call, or have some sort of wording or some sort of signal so that somebody up in the box could look and signal it down basically to the sideline. The sideline communicated it. In theory, it's one of those things that in theory is better because you're always going to be right. They can't be right. Now, that said, one thing that we will always do is convert press to a fade. That's easy. He's pressed, convert it to a fade. The better we get, the more we can go, okay, he's at 3 yards, he's at 4 yards, he's at 5 yards. The more experience that the receivers get, the more what's the word? The more comfortable they are with the quarterback, the more in sync they are with the quarterback. It can just be a look. One of the best combinations that I had were Cousins. And so it was just a look. It was, oh my God, I can't believe this guy's doing this because the quarterback could throw it. The receiver could run. He was all state. He was
Adios, huh?
yeah. I mean, he was all state and he was had the talent to be a Division I track kid as well. And, if a kid walked up there and got within, 4 or 5 yards, it was like, okay, dude, you're not gonna be able to go backwards and make this work.
Right.
So they could just make that call. And it didn't take anything for them to do it. But then you would put in the third guy. The second guy could do it too. The third guy was like, didn't have that. The third guy was our starting corner or whatever. So he didn't spend as much time working on that. So I went away from it, and it's that whole Coach Simple thing. Is it ideal to, not be? Is it ideal to always be right? Yeah. But how much time do I have to invest in this? compared to just me knowing, okay, this kid's played 8 yards off the last 3 snaps, throw the hitch.
Right.
Or they run press, throw the fade. And that's I've just preferred that greatly.
The only benefits I can really
Having
see of the
control.
choice route is that you can get more routes, right? Maybe because of what you're seeing, a curl route or maybe it had to be shorter. I guess more of a sit route, right? Get inside and sit down. You can put a slant on. That'd be the only benefits I could see. Like you said, make them where they're never right, and that has to be beneficial for your team, right? If we're always right. Now, the communication piece, yes. And I guess that's kind of where you go majoring and minoring. Are you going to major in your quick game, or are you majoring in run game? And this is just to make them send that outside backer back out there again, because by God, you're not going to complete another hitch on us, or to go to some coverage that helps a safety over the top of that corner. Well, now he's not in the box. Now he's not fit in the alley because he's worried about the go ball, right? So I can see, which side you wanted to be on. Another thing I think we've developed is, I say we, I had no part in this. I just learned it and I'm going to use the crap out of it. But I think RPOs are today's post snap quick game, right? I'm going to put you on a route. I'm going to look at the guy who we say is got two things to do at the same time. He has to come play the run. And he's supposed to play the pass. And then I can read him, because now you're talking about I need to signal it in all this pre-snap, like pre-snap alignment. But what about post-snap? Does he come flying on a blitz and he just leaves that open? How many go balls could you complete if you were reading it every time they corner blitzed? You're just chunking it out there to your guy, right? So I guess my kind of a question to you is, do you think RPOs have replaced quick game, or just kind of became the next evolution of that, or whatever, or do you completely keep them separate?
They're totally separate. They're totally separate. They're again, there's an element of having control. There's elements of what you want to do with your RPO. If I ran an RPO, when I run RPOs, I want to run the ball. I prefer your guy to sit back there in coverage so I can just hand it off.
Right.
And it's all I'm trying to do with that RPO and that option game is to reduce the numbers in the box and give myself a better numbers. It's an extension. To me, RPO is an extension of the option game and not a evolution in the passing game.
Right.
It takes away, one of the things I hate about RPOs and stuff is, again, I want that control. And obviously you can call and you can tag and you can kill things. I like pre-snap RPOs more than post-snap RPOs. So like our look tag. Well, I'll call 27 look, which is outside zone to the left, and the X receiver to the right is the look tag. He's always the backside receiver. Where if we just happen to get a 10-yard off corner, we're not looking for anything other than pre-snap. If they just give it to us wide open, take it. The look, which is a screen, basically a quick screen, and all I have to do is just not tag the look on there, and we'll just hand the ball off. I don't ever want to make that automatic. I want to make it a tag. When I run RPOs, I tag we tag repo on it, REPO. So if I run 27 repo, that usually is going to be the traditional kind of little slant sit route
Right.
by a backside receiver. And if I do that, I tag repo on it. And if I don't want that, if I want to block, obviously just don't tag it, just call 27. To me, quick game doesn't have, it does, but it doesn't. And we can get into that. Quick game isn't really about a post snap read. So when you add in a post snap read, it's no longer quick game. Quick game should be the simplest thing in the world.
Yeah.
In your passing game.
Yep. I like the idea that RPOs can at least kind of accentuate your quick game, just because maybe they're disguising. You know what I mean? They're pressed now, and he is absolutely bailing, and we just checked off to a go ball, which quarterback should put it outside. Nobody but the sideline or the receiver can make a play. But we all know that high school quarterbacks miss. Maybe your line can't hold up, whatever. So I like the ability to even mix them, use them.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's super cool that
They're not a replacement,
if
though.
the hitch isn't there or the slant isn't there, we have an automatic out, and it's not a relief on a blitz of a back to the flats. It's literally a already blocked up run play. So
But
I
see,
like
you
the idea of
can't.
mixing them and go ahead. Sorry.
Well, but the timing of it, you can't throw a hitch off of a run fake. That's not
Right.
quick game anymore. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And if you throw a slant off of a run fake, it's not quick game anymore.
Right.
Remember how long we spend to get the ball out? 1.3 seconds, ball is out. It's no longer quick game. One of the things with quick game, and we haven't gotten into this yet, why quick game? We can get into that.
That's next. That's right now. Why
Okay,
the quick
right.
game? So why the quick game, Joe?
So this answers this question. One of the biggest benefits of quick game is the ball being out in 1.3 seconds. The decision made pre-snap, which means if my offensive line is terrible, I can still throw the ball. And everybody's got these ideas about, I'm going to do these RPOs and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do all these crazy things. I've got my 5-step drop. I'm going to be air raid, and I'm going to be, we're going to run triangle reads, and we're going to go through 5 progressions, and we're going to all this stuff. And your offensive line isn't there. You're not doing that.
Right. You and what army?
And that includes going in and getting into a ride and throwing an RPO. That includes all of those things. To whereas he is 7 yards. I got a 7-yard off corner. I catch and throw the hitch. And there's no way that you can cover that ground, that 5 to 6 yards. There's no way that you can cover that ground. And so no matter what my offensive line looks like, I can throw the ball. I can't say that's true in play action. That's not true in RPO. That's not true in anything. I can throw the ball on a catch and throw, on a hitch, a slant, or a fade. And there is just no other way to guarantee that I can throw the ball than to say pre-snap. And look, our traditional hitch, our traditional quick game is hitch seam. And we don't throw the seam that much unless it's just a lot of times we throw the seam, it's the R4 term, uncapped. There's just nobody over top of it. Hold on one second. Talk for a minute.
Yeah, too easy. Quick game. I really just think, quick game helps us take advantage of space. You mentioned R4. I got to talk to Dub Maddox recently, and it was pretty neat just hearing his way that he breaks down the game, right? And I don't even know it all. I bought the books. Like, I'm going to learn it because why the hell would you not? Number one, if someone puts out a quality product, buy the product. What have you have to lose? Like, you want to complain about not getting wins and your kids aren't lifting weights, but you aren't lifting books. So get over yourself and go be a good coach. Because I want to learn how he's reading those things and taking advantage. But, it's too easy to look out there and see space and go, we've got to hit it. You talk about a corner that's 7 or 8 yards off, right? And I'm going to throw the hitch all night long. Where is the hole in the defense, and how can I put a route there right now before, just like you talked about, Joe, 1.3 seconds? They're not going to be able to fill that space quick enough. And so, that's why I think the quick game still exists. Another one is, when you get down to the goal line, I needed to be hitting a route that my quarterback knows. You talked about the time already with an RPO. Is it nice to go, we are throwing a slant? If it's not there, hand the ball off. Absolutely. But when we go out and line up and we're like, a quick out is money ball here, but I've got to run this slant and I've got to try to run into a loaded box because they've got inside leverage, then, at least the quick game does allow us to take advantage of what they give us, that pre-snap read. I think that's a wonderful idea.
We had to stop for a little crisis, which hopefully has been fixed now. So basically, you talked about getting this thing into being able to get the ball. We talked about getting the ball out. and I was talking about our hitch seam concept, and I like the ability to just throw it away. I love the fact of quick game is that we don't have to worry about the fact of quick games that we don't have to worry about a bad look. We can just throw it away. I can convert a hitch to a fade, no problem. I should convert I don't convert a fade to a hitch. If he's that far off, it just converts to a look and basically an uncovered. If he's 9 yards off, it's just an uncovered. If I call the fade, I'm thinking if I call the fade, I can win it if he's 7 yards off. I like that matchup. It's a pre-snap read, so quarterbacks who are having trouble decision making, it's a big advantage to just look out there and say, okay, this guy's open. I like this matchup. This is going to work. It takes some stress off of your quarterback, so I like that about it. You mentioned the goal line. I don't want to be in a five. There's not really, in the goal line, there's not really much use for your 5-step drop stuff, right? We have goal line passing, red zone passing, but and they're more man beaters than anything, or play actions, or we should have some 2-point pass and that sort of stuff. But I can still throw hitch and I can still throw. Sorry, not hitch. I can still throw fade and I can still throw slant on the goal line. So those translate into your goal line passing package. So you have an advantage there, being able to get the ball out quickly. There's just I feel like quick game is like it's this annoyance that I have with people who think that my approach is too simple or too elementary, and then I watch all of the broken bull crap that they have that is the
Pretty and fun and complex and
yeah
pro
and then
style and all
cool
the
and like that I can I can post it on Twitter and feel cool because I run this stuff. Like I can do all that stuff, but very few teams are ready for it. If you have not exhausted your quick game passing, if you have not exhausted your base run game, if you have not exhausted a base 5-step, your RPOs are an extension of option game. If that's going to be your game, that's your game. That's perfectly okay. I just watch over and over again teams that can't do it. They don't do it very well. The quarterback isn't doing it well. They're not protecting it on the offensive line, whatever. Like if you can't run the ball, what are you throwing RPOs for? Like if they can stop you with one less in the box, there's no point. There's no point. Like you have to be good at these things. You have to be good at you need to be good at quick game. You need to be good at base run game. More and more I go back to we talked about this on a previous episode. We run a lot of zone read. We run power read. We run all of those little option games. I love we've gotten to run a lot of speed option lately. Last couple of years. We have pretty elaborate play action passing. We have which we can get into. We have a lot of tags off of our quick game and our base passing. I can create any of those looks that you want, that that we talk about, any of those air raids or anything like that. I can do all of that. And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. But it all goes back to when day one, I'm going to, and for me, day one, I'm going to go under center. I'm more and more to day one, I'm going to run the ball from under center. Day one, I'm going to run inside zone from under center, straight downhill. And day one, I'm going to throw a hitch. Because I've figured out if I can run inside zone or power, however you're going to work things. But for me, it's if I can run inside zone, outside zone, power, counter, truck toss, and I can throw a hitch and a fade, I can be really good. And all of this other stuff it's not. I've never lost a game because I couldn't do that. Right? It's never been the killer. And so, I think that a lot of us are just overcomplicating the game, and I think that 90% of us would be better off if we just had a good run game and a good quick passing game and a good play action game and a
Yeah.
good screen game and a good quarterback sneak. We'd be better off. I think that 90% of us, I think 99% of us, maybe all of us, would be better off if we just had a good base defense with good clean run fits,
I
rather
think
than all your blitz packages and your split field coverages and all that sort of stuff.
it comes back to I don't know what every state has, but Oklahoma's infested with casinos, right? Because people are addicted to that big hit. And I think that's what coaches get in their scheme as well. When I hit the perfect mesh and my quarterback reads just right, and I read the middle backer and whoever he doesn't take, I'm getting the ball out and it's a backside throw and now everybody's ran away. Great. Kind of the same thing with the go ball, right? Like if I can just complete one, it's that big adrenaline spike. Holy crap. Look what we just did. And how many times do you have to fail before you cut it out of your system? We made an episode somewhere in the last 2.5 years about if it doesn't work, get rid of it, right?
Right.
Use what
That's
works,
everything. Yeah.
cut out what doesn't. But sometimes I think we have a higher confidence in ourselves to coach things, and that thing hits every once in a while. And so now we are the greatest thing since sliced bread, and we are going to run that concept no matter what. And there's a team fairly local to me that's a big air raid team, and they've been terrible for 5-10 years. And this year they were outlandishly good. I mean, made a really deep run. I'm pretty sure they didn't win the gold ball, or whatever your trophy looks like. But I know that town will be ingrained in that system for another 5 years, right? That guy's job is safe. Job security, because that town is now addicted to watching
The passing
that
game.
style of football. And in the meantime, there's another school that's letting the flex bone die out because they're not any good at it. The people loaded the box and they didn't know how to adjust. And so they haven't got that hit in a long time. So they now need the next thing. And so it's going to be pass happy, right? So unfortunately, I think I agree. I obviously you've ingrained in me the coach simple, play fast, win, and part of coaching simple schemes. And I hope that people can get back to that and quit letting that addictive thing. I don't even know what it's called. I'll have to look it up someday. But just that need for the next big hit take over.
I just I see it in our own team sometimes. I see it in our own coaching staff, and it's everywhere. Here's the one that gets me is this should work.
Yeah.
We had a passing concept, and it's a quick game concept, and on paper it should work every single time. And whether the quarterback misread it or we dropped the ball or this happened or that happened, but we kept doing it because it should work and kept doing it. We've been, for 2 years now. We've constantly, not constant, it's not like we call it all the time, but it stays in the playbook because it should work. And I feel the same way about it. It should work. It's a read that should work and never does. And like if we run it 10 times, it works twice. Well, frick, the fade ball has a better, has about the same percentage, if not better.
Yeah.
So let's just throw 10 fade balls and at least we'll score once. Not it worked. We gained 6 yards, 8 yards, something like that, because it worked. And you get hung up on it should work, and you get into that. And honestly, air raid and flexbone are very, very similar in that regard. It's funny that you bring those two up because they're both essentially options. All passing. We talk about offensive play caller system, which is going to be open here at the end of February, at the end of this month. Offensive play caller system. We talk about 3 levels of play calling. So we talk about pre-snap reads, we talk about post-snap reads, we talk about predictive play calling, we talk about post-snap play calling, we talk about I'm blanking out right now, but we sometimes we make our play calls based on what we see with the alignment. Sometimes we look pre-snap at what we see. Excuse me. Sometimes we base it on what we've been seeing. Sometimes we look out there, check with me, pre-snap read. So that's your quick game. Quick game is very much in the pre-snap category, even though we're calling it. So, for example, if I call power, I don't care what you run. Like unless we build it in audible. Generally, when I call power right. It's because based on what I've seen out of your defense, power right should be a good call right now. We run it well. We're going to run it. There's no check. There's no anything, right? That's basic. And that's the majority of play callers. Quick game is a pre-snap read. So quick game is looking out there and saying, all right, this guy over here sucks and I have an all state guy. We're going to throw the fade on him. And he's pressed, or this guy's 10 yards off and I'm going to throw the hitch. Or there's nobody standing over top of the tight end. I'm going to throw the seam because they have an alignment issue. And that linebacker is going to, not going to come out of it. And I can flash fake that too. And I can do all sorts of stuff with it. That's pre-snap play calling. Pre-snap play calling is also check with me, where the coach looks out there and says, I like this. We're going to throw this. It's also pre-snap RPOs, like we talked about, running an outside zone with a look tag on the backside. And if I get that look tag, I'm going to throw it. Otherwise, I'm going to run outside zone. And then post-snap is actually all 5-step passing, which a lot of people don't think about. That's option game. It's not just, run and shoot option routes that are 5-step passing, that are option routes. All passing is based on what I see, based on what your defense does, somebody's going to be open.
Progressions or
right. Well, we run our curl drill.
One guy.
When I run a curl drill, and I have so the way that curl works, just as a real quick one, curl has a hook route by the running back. So if the linebacker flies out, the hook is open. That's the first read. The second read is if the curl route is open, if the strong safety, let's say, shoots, runs to the flat, well, now the curl is open. If the strong safety sits for the curl route, then the shoot route and the flat is open. If the only way that you can get 3 guys to a side and take all of those away is rotation, or you can be in a cover 2, which now we're not in a good play call for it. But if you rotation to get a guy over there, then that rotation is my trigger read that takes me to the backside where now I have a 2-on-1. And so again, I'm going to be right no matter what. The only way that you can make me not right is have 5 underneath and rotate to that side.
What's your backside routes on that? Just so the listeners
same
can...
curl flat.
Okay.
Curl flat. Yeah.
So it's mirrored. That's what we're talking
about.
So
it's a horizontal stretch concept where if you run cover 3, let's say with 4 under, 3 deep, I have 5 guys stretching your 4. So somebody's going to be open. RPOs are the same way. Post snap RPOs are the same way. Option is the same way. What I like is what I get into is inside zone and outside zone are the same way, because post snap, if the cutback lane opens up because your backside linebacker flew over, then I cut back. And inside zone is now a post snap read play. Power doesn't have that read, right? Power is a gap scheme play. Gap scheme is going to hit where it hits. Wedge is going to hit where it hits. So flex bone and air raid run along the same concept of being a post snap read. You mentioned what if he is disguising coverage. So I like the hitch because the guy is sitting 6 yards, 7 yards off. The ball is snapped and he sits. He doesn't backpedal. Well, now the hitch is not a good throw. Quick game does involve confirming. All that we do on quick game is we confirm that guy stayed where we expected him to. And, we can do things like motion and to get him to move. But he's confirmed where he's at. And okay, now I'm going to throw the hitch. I catch and I throw. And I try to throw it in a spot where even if he does sit, again, I throw that to the outside because he's inside leverage. So even if he does sit, same thing with the fade, like you said, if I get good at throwing the fade ball, It's not in a place where he can get it. And so I confirm it. I confirm that, pre-snap, I like the slant, or pre-snap, I like the shoot because of the alignment of the strong safety. Like if that strong safety is sitting outside leverage of number 2 receiver, I probably would prefer, because I'm going to have to clear that window to throw the slant. I might prefer the shoot. So there's different things to look at. And you just confirm it post-snap. But if I'm running the flex bone, or if I'm running, any sort of option play, any sort of RPO, any sort of air raid passing attack, because it's post-snap reads, it should work. And we fall in love with that. We fall in love with the idea that this should work. If we just keep doing it enough, it'll all fall into place. And sometimes that's true, and a lot of times it's not. And we had Lynn Shackelford on talking about when they installed RPOs. And Lynn went about it the right way, I think, which is they installed one RPO off of one run play and made it work. What a lot of us do is we decide, I love RPOs. We're going to be an RPO team. And even, years ago, we had Brent Dearman on the podcast, and Brent Dearman has tons of RPOs, but we talked about, what do you do? And it was install one, because it should work. And if you install 3 and all 3 of them don't work, how do you fix it? But if I install 1 and I just go to work on it, what I liked about Lynn Shackelford installing the RPO, as opposed to all these guys who go, RPOs are awesome, we're going to do RPOs. What I liked about Lynn Shackelford was it was to solve a problem. He couldn't run the ball because his linemen weren't climbing to the second level to get to the linebackers. Now, we can do all sorts of things. This is just like when I switched to rip moving everything, and I had all these guys telling me, "Oh, you're just not coaching block destruct for the linebackers the right way." Understood, but I've been trying it for 10 years, so it's not working. Like, it's just, we're just going to rip move everything. We're going to rip everything. And so maybe I'm not coaching it the right way. And I could tell Lynn the exact same thing. I don't have a problem with my guys climbing to the second level, so that doesn't make sense for me. But he did. And he came up with a solution, and it worked. Right? He could have sat there and just continued to say, well, they should be able to climb to the second level.
Right. They're supposed to be there.
They're supposed to be climbing to the second level. We're just going to keep doing this. And I could sit there and tell him my guys climb to the second level just fine. That doesn't matter to him. So his install of RPOs absolutely made sense. I don't know. We've got no.
It happens. We're podcasters. We don't talk about one thing all the time.
You do these things because they make sense. But when you install, I just get back to this. When you install, you should install your base run game, and you should install some base quick game. Because it's pre-snap read, and it should be there. And not many people that I've ever known have been like, the hitch should work. But for some reason, it just doesn't work for us. Like the fade, yes. Tony DeMeo, you mentioned see a hitch, throw a hitch. Tony DeMeo talked about, and again, he was on the podcast years and years ago, back in the first season, first 20 episodes or something like that. Tony was a really good football coach, coached here at U of R, University of Richmond, for a while. And option guy, and Tony's big thing was, in the first quarter, we're going to get a hitch and a pitch. And the idea is I'm going to make you run, right? I'm going to make you run. I'm going to make you run sideline to sideline. I'm going to make you cover the entire field. And I believe a lot of his stuff was based off of gun triple, inside zone read type stuff. So if I remember right, but he had just fantastic offensive scheme, college scheme, lots of tags. I love tags. And that's where the development of this thing comes in, is like, and that's where the development of our offense comes in, is tags. So he would, he had, if he's going to throw a hitch, see a hitch, throw a hitch. He's not going to pass up a hitch. He had, he was going to pitch the ball, an option, spread the field. And then he tagged stuff and just made it happen. But I love that idea, but it's just the basics of it and all of his crazy option stuff. Remember, he came back to, we're going to throw a hitch. We just are.
Yep.
And the only way you're going to take that away is to press me. And then what does that open up? Fade. And it could potentially open up slant too.
You've kind of gotten to the tags and whatnot. So it really brings us to the last question, which is, how do we use the quick game? Like, what is we talked about the why. So what's the how? How do I install that? Or how do I use it in game?
Yeah. It's, if you, it has to be there. We throw it because it's there. And again, I go back to, it's crazy to me. And I know if you're an air raid guy, it's different. It's crazy to me. Like, if I'm getting 8 yards a pop on the run, I'm not doing any of this stuff.
Right.
Like, it ain't happening. We're handing the ball off. Now, eventually, somebody comes into the box. Eventually, you go cover 0, or eventually you go 3 under 3 deep, and eventually you tighten in the strong safety. And now I can, the corner plays off, whatever it is. I just want to get a guy out of the box. Eventually, you load the box, and I throw one of those, or it's just there from the start. If it's there from the start, if you're playing 9 yards off, the hitch is there. I'm going to throw the hitch because you're giving it to me, because it's the easy thing to do. If your corner plays 9 yards off, I throw the hitch. If he presses, I'm going to test him with the fade because I want to get you out of the press, because that opens up the rest of our passing game.
Right.
Because if a good press, it makes it difficult to release. And I want to get back into the rest of our passing game. So what I like about quick game is it's always there. This is not like, oh, by game plan, we're going to have the hitch in this week. 60 in our offense, 60-61 and 60-61 up. By the way, fade is just a tag on hitch. Goes from hitch seam to 4 verts. And then I can tag all hitch, and I can have all 4 guys hitch. We don't do that very much. I can tag 60 up, HY out, which is a bench concept for quarters. And I throw the out. If I take the corner out of there and I have a tight safety over top of him, then I throw the out. And we can get that against the weak side of split field coverage sometimes. And opens up that area. So we can also get it against cover 1 if you want to play off, or not cover 1, off cover 0 is a really good place to use that. Because you're bringing if you want to bring everybody else and pack the box, we'll throw the out route. Get the guy over top of now we get the number 2 receivers involved more, because we're going to see that guy turn his hips and we're going to throw an out route 5-step. So slant, we can go double slant. We can go we can run it out of trips and go double slant shoot and have number 3 run the shoot. We can go we can tag a sluggo. We can tag we can do lots of different things. We can tag a slant wheel that's no longer a 3-step concept. You don't throw the wheel very well on 3-step because you got to see it come open. But you can go slant wheel. It comes down to the basics of offensive play call. Again, offensive play caller system that's open for enrollment. It comes down to the basics of that, which is space, leverage, numbers. And for the quick game, it's usually space. It's usually, the simplest way to learn to be a play caller is to look at numbers in the box and to look at the leverage of the corner. If the corner's up, throw the fade. If the corner's off, throw the hitch. That's lesson number 1 in play calling. And I love the idea that, RPOs and they're always right and everything, but you got to learn how to coach it.
So schematically, you kind of mentioned there at the end of the 3x1, one of my favorite quick game concepts that I have kind of stumbled upon this past season and this off season, really, I've got to study a little more, is a 3x1 quick game concept. And that's if you look to the solo side, they're just running a choice. That's why I asked about choice earlier, because man, you can make it whatever you need it on that backside, but then you still have fundamentally sound, I'm running these routes to the front side of a 3x1. And then they're running like a hitch by 1, a sit route, which start between the numbers and the hash, run almost like a short curl, run just inside the hash and sit down. And then you have almost like a corner and go, but basically a slot fade by the number 3. And it really, I think that opens up one, maybe there's a little bit of a read to it, but pre-snap you can determine, I think this cat's going to be open with a confirmation, but you get 3 areas of the field in quick game that you're getting to make somebody wrong. And plus the choice right off the bat. So, like, we've talked about all night. If it's pressed, hey, baby, we got fade ball right now. I don't even care what's happening on the 3x1 side. We're going to a fade ball right now. And I think that's a really neat concept. Obviously, you got to be able to coach it. You got to be able to coach quarterback to understand choice is off limits. Once you say no, I'm not going over there. I don't like the read. You can't. It's gone. It's going to a runoff or a curl route or whatever you're going to check him to. And then I have to depend on these front 3 and knowing what the defense. So you got to be able to read the defense a little bit better, I suppose, with a 3-man concept versus kind of what we've been talking about is the one-on-one. Where's he at? I'm throwing the opposite. And so I guess one of my questions is, like, what do you do 2x2 and 3x1 to ensure you still have that quick game? I know that your offense is based a lot out of like a pro, a tight end to one side and H to the opposite, or moving that H around. So your slot guy may even be too big of a body for too many routes. I'm depending on the year. But so what are you doing with a 2x2 versus 3x1? Are there any special combinations that you see work out that stay with the quick game mentality?
I don't throw out a 3x1.
There we go.
So, I mean, we do throw out a 3x1. We have a few things, but again, the design of our offense, and it's just the design of our offense. If you want to throw out a 3x1, that's great. There's too many things that you can take away from us when we try to throw 3x1. So when we have some things that are going to be game plan, for example, we'll throw a curl flat concept and then throw a number 3, run a corner route over the top. And
yeah,
we've hit that. And it's a game plan. It's a shot play. It's not base passing.
Right.
I wouldn't call that 10 times. I'd call that because what I see and I want to do that. We'll do play actions out of 3x1. We'll do some sprint action out of 3x1. We'll do some man beaters out of 3x1. Our red, white, and blue, which is basically a read on the number 3. It's specifically to get the ball to number 3, number 1, and number 2 running clear outs. And it's a cover 0 beater. That's a 3x1 concept. But it's a cover 0 beater. So we can adapt to run out of 3x1, but we just don't do it. It's all mirrored. We don't have to check release. So one of the things to note, we don't have to worry about this in quick game because the ball is going to be out. But in our 5-step drop, we have 2 check releases. So we can 7-man protect, which allows us, again, it's 5-step drop is essentially option. It always should work. Somebody should always be open with our mirrored concepts. And I think that's another thing that's like, I love all these wild concepts and passing concepts and stuff. It's like, they're super cool, buddy. Our stuff should always be open too. And it's a lot simpler.
Does split field give your mirrored concepts any problem when they can just both be handled the exact same?
Split field
is 3-4 defense. So that way it's truly even on each side. Because obviously 4-2-5, there's a side that's a little bit stronger against you.
Well, I can argue then if it's truly balanced, I've got a 5-man box. Right?
Absolutely.
If you don't bring your Sam Backer down into the box and you play a truly balanced 2 off outside linebackers, or even that 5-man, even if you go with the 5-2 look and they're coming slam up the field, I've got a 5-man because I'm not going to block them. I'm just going to, up
some underneath. Right.
And so I've got a 5-man box. So, now does does split field quarters give us problems? We have quarters beaters, just like anything else. We have the 60 up HY out, the bench concept. That's going to give us, a quarters beater. We have one where we tag our Poco with a dig route, and we essentially clear out the safety, and we come in behind him with about a 12 to 15 yard dig route, and we run another guy to the flat. So we run the R on a check release to the shoot. And so we have that. And the only time that gives us a problem is against the 3-4. And essentially you just make a box call where we don't read off the linebacker, we read off the outside linebacker. Because the outside linebacker is the only one that can take it away. So we, just like anything else, we have quarters beaters. So it's not, our offense has things in it to handle all of those elements. And again, you want to talk about beaters. There's quarters beaters. There's cover 3 beaters. There's cover 2 beaters. What are there not, quote unquote beaters for? It's cover 1 and cover 0. They're picks and rubs and things. Cover 1 a lot of times is cover 3 because teams are playing it off, and you can just run a lot of your cover 3 concepts. So one thing about cover 1 off man is it's just cover 3.
Right.
In 90% of the way that it works, it's cover 3. I just know that, hey, this guy's going to run with, if you play off man, let's take a curl concept, a curl flat concept. Well, the guy playing man on number 2 is going to go run to the flat, and the corner started 7 yards off. He's going to get his hips turned, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 big, 2 little, turn back. And as soon as the strong safety clears the window, I throw the curl route. No problem. It's just, it's cover 3 beater. It's cover 1 beater, it's a cover 3 beater for the most part. Theoretically, cover 0 doesn't have beaters other than, your picks. But if they can fight through those, it should be taken away. Just like that, what's the answer to RPOs? Well, theoretically, it's cover 0. Because I can load the box and then take away all of your receiver options. Again, that's on paper though, because it doesn't always work. So, and I have ways to handle that. So, no, of course, split field quarters doesn't give us any special. It's not special. It's not special. If you coach a really good cover 1, you're just as good in pass coverage as you would be in split field. I mean, look at the NFL. Like, I don't know the numbers, but a good number of teams don't run quarters. A good number don't run quarters. If it was the end all be all that people think it is.
I think this was the highest year, and it's something like 30% of snaps or something. Like, it's still not. It's not a ton. I mean, the amount of cover 3 and cover 1 is still pretty high, and obviously by team, because some teams are cover 1 teams, right, and some teams are 3 base teams. But
right,
they may be running 3 match.
Sure,
but which I don't know. At what point is that just quarters? I'm just responsible.
Well, 3 matches. It's not quarters, but 3 match is a little bit different. I don't like 3 match. If I'm going to match, it's going to be quarters. Yeah, that's just my thing. I'm not right or wrong. I just don't like it. I don't think it's worth the time investment at our level.
Yeah.
If I want to pattern match it, I'm going to pattern match it with quarters. Otherwise, I'm going to play man or I'm going to play zone. So, but yeah, like it's not like there's just this quick game gets me all excited because quick game is so simple and everybody should be doing it. And it's just everybody should be doing it. Everybody should be getting the ball out fast and throwing the ball and looking like you can. I mean, gosh, if you have a good hitch and fade game, like if all your quarterback can throw is hitch and fade and you have a decent wide receiver, you're going to look like a passing team.
Right.
They just are.
Sweet, man. I think we beat up quick game and we added RPOs and we added install and we added some inside zone run and the way podcasting should be done.
Sounds good.
A little bit of everything. Talk about football. It's good. It's good for.
I got very distracted this episode, so sorry.
It's okay. That's what we're here for. Paying the bills on the way out. Join.joedanielfootball.com. As far as I know, you can still go there and get 7 days for $1. Confirm or deny.
Go to Joe Daniel Football and get that 40 Get that 40 Coach Simple rules.
40 Coach Simple rules. Jump in, get the 40 Coach Simple rules. Learn the things that you don't know that people probably haven't taught you before. Great for assistants, great for head coaches, great for everybody. Especially if you're an assistant who thinks you want to be a head coach. Yep.
Sounds right.
Football.com. Hop off it there. Sales opening, closing. You talked about offensive play caller system. So I know we're closing defense tonight. So offense will be open sometime in this window.
Closes February 27th. So it closes towards the end of February.
There you go.
Opens whatever the week before that is.
Gotcha. And then social media, I am at Coach Chambo OK on the Twitter/X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. And when I say you can, I mean please do. I love talking ball. When everything in my email is business or something my school is sending me, which is not to that email, it's to my school email, that makes for a bad day. I'd much rather sit around and talk about how to call in tags. That was my most recent email. And thank you, Coach, if you're listening still. That was a great, I spent a day just talking about tags. So excellent deal. Joe, where can we find you at?
Email is joe@joedanielfootball.com. Generally, if you have questions about products and stuff, you can ask there. I don't get to do talk ball that much. I do it on our site. I have clients that we do it with.
Jump on the site and use the forum, right?
Use the chalkboard forum. Yep. But on Twitter at Football Info, on TikTok, and on Instagram at Joe Daniel Football.
And I saw some YouTube stuff. I think it was of
course, the podcast is on YouTube.
With our words all up there and transcribed,
yeah.
and it looks good.
Podcast is on YouTube. Just go to joedanielfootball.com/YouTube. We have a weird, wonky old YouTube actual channel. But if you search for Joe Daniel Football, or if you just go to joedanielfootball.com/YouTube,
it's on there.
And the podcast is always on YouTube.
There you go.
It comes on the Tuesday after. So the podcast goes out audio on Thursday. It goes out the following Tuesday on video.
Perfect. If this is your first time listening to Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe and follow and all the words that mean you listen to us more. They're not all this crazy, okay? When you have a crisis in the middle, sometimes things happen. But we do like talking ball. So please come back and join us, talk some football anytime. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher, not SoundCloud, because, sorry guys, y'all don't use it. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, mainly Spotify and Apple Podcast, and mainly Apple Podcast. If you've been listening for a while, feel free to go over and leave us some star rating or thumbs up or whatever it is nowadays. Listen, if it's not fairly perfect, if it's not 5 or maybe 4, shoot us a message, man. Let us know what we're doing wrong. We are not afraid to change. Okay. No one's ever shot me anything that said we're doing anything wrong, except we talk too much, which I have to say, this is a podcast. You downloaded a podcast to listen to people talk about football, and they did that. So if that's your complaint, we love you anyway. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. Remember, coach simple, play fast, win.